Good morning. This is Scott Stanfield, and I am a modern longevitarian, and this is the show. It's my Friday, and today's show is my Biohack Whack Wednesday, where I go over things that could be short-term or long-term experiments that I've done on myself. And today, I decided to stand up today. I wanted to bring a different energy to this because I've been keto for gosh, over 5 years. I did Atkins diet back in my 20s when one of the first times I had to lose weight right after getting into the restaurant world. And I'm really going to dig in deep into exactly because so many people are asking me, how can you get into ketosis? How do you do this? Right. And so I broke down my own way of doing this. And one of the biggest things that people get into um, is the keto flu, right? So I'm going to talk about how to avoid the keto flu and how to do this a fun and easy way, and really break this down. But of all the pillars, sleep is by far the most important. If I encourage you to really go and download my book that I wrote on sleep. It's called Outstanding Landing: How to Get the Sleep of Your Dreams. And if you could just go download that, go to sleep.strongforlonger.com. You can see strongforlonger.com at the bottom of this overlay here, and just print off the last page. And as you go through, it's only 44 pages, even with the pages with quotes and things like that. So less than 40 pages can help you with these 7 different ways to get the best sleep, because that's the most important piece of the whole puzzle, right? We think it's food, but it's not. So the first thing is there's and let me tease tomorrow's show. I got tomorrow on Thursday, Carrie Luxem. She wrote this book, the Restaurant Operators HR Playbook. So tune in for that if you want to learn from Carrie. We're going to pick up where the conversation has been ongoing, but we did a podcast for the Restaurant General Manager podcast. And so tune in for that. And tomorrow, same time, same channel, wherever you are, just watch this. Okay. I got this whole thing I wrote, right? 10 pages of all these steps on how to do that, how to get into keto. Let me first just say this. There's two ways to get into ketosis, and it's simple. One, just stop eating, just start fasting. And at some point, no matter what diet program you're on now, as long as you don't have, some sort of disease or type 1 diabetes or metabolic disease or something like that. Now, first of all, I'm not a doctor. I'm not prescribing any of these things. All I'm saying is that you should consult a dietitian or doctor or physician, whoever is your caregiver, that is, especially if you're on prescription drugs, you have any type of disease or any of those type of things, before you do any of these things. Me, personally, this is informational purpose only. This is what works for me. This is what has worked for me over the last 5+ years in doing that. So the first thing you can do is just fast. If you fast, you will get into ketosis in a long enough timeline. And no matter what diet you have, high carb, low carb, medium carb, no matter what those things are, you're going to get into ketosis. The second piece of the puzzle is you can just eliminate carbohydrates from your diet. And some people do this by doing a carnivore version of the ketogenic diet. Some people do this by just, tracking their macros and those type of things. One of the differences between what happened with this particular diet or the ketogenic diet of today versus the Atkins diet of the years ago, 20 years ago, was more of a heavy protein diet, and Atkins was. And it was a modified ketogenic diet. But you just ate like a cup of salad, or he had 25 carbs, gross carbs. The difference is now we focus on net carbs, which is if you're eating just whole foods, it is gross carbohydrates minus fiber. And there's a specific app that I'd use and I download, and you can follow me on. My handle on this app is called @straightcabbage, which is also my Instagram. And so I would encourage you to download this. The first thing is because you need to track and see where you are on your macros first. That's the first step of this. And so the app is called Fat Secret, and it's got like a key, right? A little keyhole, and it's got a white background and then green. I have an iPhone, so I know it's on Apple. I just don't know if it's on Android there, but it's what I use. Now, what the thing is that, and I think it's better because you can program this or change the settings at the top to give you net carbs and put fiber in, because fiber is important for feeding your microbiome. And by the way, I'm in the process of updating this book, and this this right here is going to be the cover of it, how it looks, where it says how to get into keto with this door. Ironically, it happens to be green, and like the fat secret, I didn't plan that. That just kind of dawned on me right now, but that's what it is, right? That's what it is. All right. So the first thing is that understanding that you can fast to get there, or you can eliminate carbs from your diet down to a point of whatever works for you. You have to find what works for you. I use 25 net carbs as that. So, all right. Now, what you do is that you download the app, and there's three things you need to do with this. And is you need to on the food to change it to where you get the settings at the top where it shows you nat carbs on the top left of this. So you can scroll down, and I'll give you step by step. On the food diary, scroll to the bottom, select options, then choose change columns, is highlighted in red, and uncheck carbs or carbohydrates and check net carbs. Then press done on the top right of the screen. So again, scroll down to the bottom of the food diary, which is in the middle. You could hit food diary in the middle, scroll down to the bottom. This is all after you follow straight cabbage, right? Or we can connect there. And then hit change columns, uncheck carbs, check net carbs, then press done. And then now it'll have that there. I also have fiber on mine because I want to see how much fiber I'm eating, because of one of my favorite books behind me here is Fiber Fueled, and it feeds your gut microbiome. So before you even start a new diet, I suggest, especially something as some people consider as extreme as keto. Keto is not extreme for me, but I would, suggest that you track and see where you are for a week, right? Where your macros are, how much fat, how much protein, how much carbohydrates, how much net carbs you're getting in a day, right? Or in a week, right? And so you can see what your average is over a certain amount of time. By the way, I'm going to show you there's 4 phases of the ketogenic diet, and what phase based off what your goals are or where you are. And this all comes from, this chart will come from Dr. Stephen Finney and Verda, which is his company, which is people call Dr. Dom Anistigo the godfather of keto. He's the modern day one, but Dr. Finney and Dr. Volek have written some amazing books and done some amazing work. And I reference them because they have scientifically broken these things down. Not that Dom Anistigo hasn't, because I listened to him on the podcast. Tim Ferriss interviewed him for 3.5 hours, and that really is what taught me more about the modern day version of the ketogenic diet in the beginning. And then I branched out and went to Dr. Stephen Finney, which has some great free videos on YouTube that you can watch. So, and by the way, if anybody has any questions, just put them in the comments, and then I can see them, and then we can go over them as we go or towards the end. There. So basically you get this app downloaded, you get that change so you can track for a week what you're doing. That's what I did. I want to see where I was, and that way I knew what changes I need to make in my diet. Now, on average, the American family has about 10 different recipes that they rotate through. So about every 2 weeks, right? And so people ask me a lot to give them like a diet plan and a shopping list and those type of things. I think it's easier if you is to convert the recipes that your family currently makes or you currently make into keto, unless of course it's pasta or something like that. And I also caution you, because when I started doing keto 5 years ago, almost January will be 5 years, there was nothing in the store that had keto on it. So you got to still read the ingredients, because companies are labeling things as keto, but they're also they're putting things in there like maltodextrin, which spikes insulin, and which has a high glycemic index. Technically, it's keto because it hits the net carbohydrate portion of this, but it's not going to have the impact that you are looking for, because the purpose of a ketogenic diet, if you're using it for weight loss, is to lower the glycemic index or impact in insulin spikes. There's 3 or 4 ways that you can spike insulin, and those all inhibit and send signals to your body to store fat. There is lack of sleep is one. High stress is another one, because cortisol and insulin have this correlation. So when cortisol spikes, so does insulin. lack of sleep, going back to that one, that, sleep deprivation or chronic sleep deprivation, or even 3 or 4 days of it can spike insulin. The same thing if you had a donut, piece of cake, pasta, pizza, those type of things. And then foods that have a high glycemic index, that have high sugar in them, fruits other than berries, and things like pasta, pizza, breads, that type of stuff. So again, just understanding that you need to figure out where you are first, right? Then you can make adjustments in what you do to make this the easiest transition. Instead of you saying, go out and eat this because you may be allergic to what I eat, or the things I've made up, or things like that, or may not like them, or the recipes. So just food that you like. And let me give you, for instance, when my kids or my wife would make taco salad for the family, right, while I was working in the restaurant, I just wouldn't have the taco shells, because there were no taco shells that were keto-ish, right, or keto friendly when I started doing this. So I'd make a taco salad, right, and so I would convert it into something different. Right, they would have if they would have burgers or pasta, I would just have the sauce, and I would have it something different. I would take the things that were in that and make sure I was only having the things that put me in a keto state of or lifestyle. So those are that. Let's see here. What else do I have? All right. When it comes to food, I have to say this: start with clean food. And if you want to really understand what clean food is, I do have a post on my blog, strongforlonger.com, that will talk to you about what organic food is, and explain what grass-fed is, and those type of things. So clean food is by far, we live in this modern world. That's why it's called modern longevitarian. And we live in a very toxic world, and eliminating toxins. You can simply Google the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen, and you can understand that on the Clean 15, there's very little difference between a organic avocado and a non-organic avocado. And so, but yet you would never want to buy non-organic strawberries and spinach, right? So you got to look and see, what you can do to lower the toxin load on your body. And so, so just pay attention to that when it comes to food, right? And it's okay to fast, which is to do this too. But when it comes to food, okay, so understand that a ketogenic diet is basically a carb elimination diet, or a low carb diet, to put your body into the survival state. When I talk about survival, we used to watch a lot of these survival shows like Bear Grylls and all these different things. And the people get dropped in the middle of the jungle, or dropped in the middle of this place. And then they go around, instead of trying to get out of the danger, they just go looking for food, right? Well, what do you think the ketogenic version of yourself was designed to do? It was designed to operate during times when there was famine or little food around. And in doing that, there was, you can just understand what you really need at that point is hydration. You don't really need, you don't really need to go searching and spending all that energy for food. You need to get to safety, is what it is. So your body, if you just drink water and you let your body switch over to ketosis, you're going to have a boost in energy, a boost in mood. It's protein sparing, and you're going to actually be able to just walk right out of that danger that you're in. And instead of spending all this energy and all these things that they talk about, so much is spent, in walking and doing this. Well, think about this. I weigh 170 pounds. If I'm 10% body fat, I got 17 pounds of fat on my body, right? At 10%, that's considered lean. 10%. I'm not at 10%, but I will be soon. But I'll tell you why in a minute. But my point is this: if we really do the math, right? Because we're taught 1 pound of fat is worth 3,500 calories, right? You've got, if I had only 10 pounds of fat on my body that is expendable, right? I have 35,000 calories on my body that once I switch into ketosis, that I can use. And I'm in keto right now for sure, 100% sure. So what happens is, how long would it take you to burn 35,000 calories if you're spending, at least if you spend 3,500 in a day? You got 10 days to make your way out, but you don't have to have any food. You just need water, because you'll dehydrate and pass away from that. So that's the main piece of the puzzle. And so what happens is, when you're going into a ketogenic diet purposely, you're mimicking the survival state that your body has to burn the stores that are actually on your system. Dr. Jason Fung has a great quote, and he wrote the obesity code. Now the cancer code's coming out, and the complete guide to fasting. And says our bodies are designed for feast and famine, not feast, feast, feast. And so understand that you're tapping into the physiology and of your body and its science, right? And allows you to do that. And I want to get to a couple of things I promised, right? So, all right, so let's talk about net carbs. So 25 net carbs or lower. Net carbs are gross carbs minus fiber. Just like your paycheck, gross pay minus all the deduction gives you a net pay that you bring home. So it's just like that. So gross carbs could be somewhere between 35 to 45 grams, depending on what you eat. Like, for instance, one whole avocado has 10 grams of fiber in it, 13 carbohydrates, subtract 10, okay? You got 3 grams of carbs in a whole avocado, and you probably put 250 calories in your body, right? And so that's a great choice in terms of what you're looking at for net carb impact and fat ratio and things like that. And so you just can look at that. Veggies are going to be, super awesome for you, because maybe you have to be careful, especially if you're plant-based, on how many you eat that could take you out of ketosis. So play around with this, plan out on the app what you're going to eat the next day. And I find it's better for me to plan out to do that for sure. Protein's tricky one. Too much protein, your body's going to convert that into carbohydrates, glucose, through this gluconeogenesis process. Yeah, gluconeogenesis. Your liver's going to convert that. Your brain needs just a touch of glucose every day. And so your body's going to convert that protein over. But if you eat too much in excess, like a traditional American diet, you're going to get you're not going to get into ketosis, because your body's going to be converting that excess that it doesn't need into glucose and then storing it and all those things. So you're not going to be in there. So just do this. Google Phinney, Finney, Phinney keto protein, and it'll take you to a page that talks about that. My range at my height, 5'10", is about 80 to 120 grams a day. I eat somewhere between 35 to 80. I never really go above the 80 because I'm more plant-based. I don't eat a lot of meat anymore. And so because there's different schools of thought, but I'm not trying to build too much muscle right now. And so just find out what your optimum amount of protein is. I made this mistake in the beginning until I read Keto Clarity. I brought my protein down, and then I started losing even more weight. So if you're in keto and you're plateaued and you're not losing more weight, it may be the fact you're eating too much protein. So you got to really find the right amount of carbs is for you based off your insulin sensitivity, and then also find the right amount of protein is for you as well. So those are the things. And then fat, right? Now, fat is your body's going to convert into just going to convert fat into ketones. That's why it's called ketogenic diet, right? So your liver is doing a lot of work here, a lot of work. And that's why detoxing is so important, because it cleanses your blood. Every drop of blood is converted into or cleaned by your blood every 3 minutes, right? So that's why detoxing and not taking in a lot of toxic food is super, super important with this. And so depending on what your goal is, I'm gonna put this chart up. And again, this is from Stephen Phinney. It's probably going to block me out here, but I'm going to talk about this for a second. Now, there's 4 phases of the ketogenic diet there's adapt, adjust, build, and maintain. Now, if you notice on the circle graph on the bottom, right, it's in purple, it says body fat. And this person, their weight is 200 pounds under the adapt phase of this. And looks like they want to lose 50 pounds and get down to 150. Okay. So their intake is 1,400 calories a day. They expending 2,800 calories. Their carb intake is 35 grams, right? Now, this is what I said, 35 to 45 gross carbs can get you to where you're at a 25 net carb or less, to subtracting the fiber. And then their fat loss per week is 2.8 pounds per week. Why is this? Because if you look at the bottom, their carbohydrates is 5%, their protein is 20%, their diet intake of fat is 25%, and 50% of the calories they're burning are coming from their fat stores on their body. Yes, from wherever that may be, wherever your body's pulling that from. Then the next phase is adjusting, right? So what happens is that your protein, if you notice, your protein stays the same throughout all four phases. You do not change your protein. So when you ask what your macro percentages are, that's very difficult for to give because it depends on what phase that you're at. Your body does not care where it's going to burn the fat from, whether it's from your body or what you ingest. And the mistake that most people make, and I'm going to say this, the mistake that most people make is that they think that even in the beginning stages, when they're trying to lose weight, that they're going to eat the same amount of calories that they normally would eat, and eating low carb, moderate, and they eat too much protein. That's the first mistake they make. The second mistake they make is eating too much fat. Because when you eat the fat, and when you say keto doesn't work for me, you may be doing that, eating too much fat. So what happens is that you're gaining weight or not losing weight because you're not tapping into your body's ability to burn your storage that you've put on your body. Okay. Think about that. So when I was 40 pounds overweight, right, 40 pounds of extra fat, right, at 3,500 calories per pound times 40, how long could I go without eating, right? The world record on fasting is 385 days from this chap in Scotland that did that and went down to 185 pounds. He lost on average a half pound a day, which is proven through all this stuff. Now let's go. Here's the next thing. So as you lose your weight, you can add more fat to your diet and increase your you can also, once you're in ketosis, increase your carb intake, but you also can increase your overall calorie intake until you get to the point where you're ready to maintain your weight. And then what happens is that your body's not burning any fat from your body. It's burning only your dietary intake of fat, right? And the small amount of carbs that you have. And so if you look at this maintenance level, phase 4, there's 70% of the calories are coming in from your body, right? Or excuse me, from your diet. So 70% coming in from your diet. None is being burned from your body. 10% of your dietary carbs, and 20% protein. And protein stays the same of the overall expenditure of calories burned and taken in every single phase of this. So what happens is, and one of the things that really kind of drives me crazy is that people are like, yeah, I started ketogenic diet and now I'm drinking bulletproof coffee but I'm not losing any weight. Well, it's because you're just not, everything's kind of out of whack. It is a high fat diet, but it's not high fat eating diet depending on what your goals are. So like, for instance, I'll be honest with you, right? I just recently posted on Facebook a couple of videos of me doing push-ups in the snow with no shirt on. And I was like, wow, I didn't notice that I had a little extra cheese on the frame there. And I was like, wow, what am I going to do? I was like, well, I'm going to go back to phase 1. So what did I have on Monday? Monday, I had 18 grams of net carbs. I had 27 grams of fat, okay, and 61 grams of protein. That was on Monday, and I had a total of about 600 calories. Tuesday, which was yesterday, I had 1,000 calories. I had about 40 grams of net carbs, so a little bit high for what I wanted. But I didn't pre-plan my meal out. I ate what my wife had prepared for dinner while I was finishing up work here, and so I adapted it as best I could. Right, ended up having about 80 grams of protein, 40 grams of fat, and about 45 grams of net carbs. Right, but in 2 days, I have had 1,600 calories total on an average of 30 grams or less than 30 grams of net carbs on the 2 days, and an average of, let's see, about 30 grams of fat over the 2 days, and an average of 70 grams of protein over those 2 days. Now, what am I going to look like in a week from now, or 2 weeks from now, or a month from now? And that way I can go to a different phase and step up these different phases. So yes, I practice all of these phases in this, and it depends on what my goal is at the time. And so my goal is, before age 50, to be at 9% body fat, and also be able to do planche push-ups, which means I'm doing push-ups where my whole body is held on my arms, and also doing pistol squats on both legs, which are single leg squats. So those are my goals that I have right now for my fitness level of things, right? And it's super important. Your waist to hip ratio is super important for your long-term health, but I'll do a show on that later. All right. So low carb, moderate protein, and high fat that could come from your stores on your body or from your diet, depending on what your goals are. Those are what you're really after. All right. So, all right. What can't you eat? You cannot eat sugar, grains, fruits, except some berries on occasion. Raspberry, blueberries, blackberries, love them. But you got to watch your carb count. You got to push these into the Fat Secret app, and that way you can do it. I make no money from you downloading the app. I'm not just an affiliate program. This is just me giving information on my 5 years plus of doing low carb, ketogenic type diet. You cannot eat potatoes or yams or sweet potatoes. You or some winter squash, which we're getting into that season. Anything with a high carb content, be sure to watch out for that. Now, what can you eat? It's all right. Well, let's just say everything else, right? That would be the best way to go about that. And I've already covered why I don't have a diet plan, so to speak. Now let's talk about this, right? The next thing is that what's going to happen on week 1? Now you're going to lose somewhere between 3 to 5 pounds in the first week, and you're going to feel like a freaking superhero, right? Well, let me just burst a bubble a little bit as your body's converting over to this. You're no pun intended on the bubble piece, but you're losing water weight is what you're getting at this point. In water weight, you got to think about this. 5 pounds of water is about 2/3 of a gallon. And so you basically 75% of Americans are already chronically dehydrated. And now you're losing 5 pounds of water weight and you're even more dehydrated. So drinking water in this survival state or keto state, low carb lifestyle is by far super important to the whole process. Right. And so let me say this. If you want to really learn about your electrolytes, you're getting into keto, you're going to learn about electrolytes. The most important electrolytes is going to be potassium, magnesium, and salt. And those will help you hold on to the water. I did a show just last week with Daryl Boschard from Real Salt, which is mined here in Redmond, Utah. And I highly encourage you to watch that if you want to learn about salt and the importance of that in your diet and how. And by the way, Dr. Stephen Finney quotes this study that says that 4.8 grams of sodium a day is what we need to live an optimal, healthy life. And so salt, low fat, traditional low fat, high carb diet are basically lies that we've been fed about living a healthy life, especially based off my experience for sure. So you got to think you're losing 5 pounds and now you're dehydrated. So where can you get potassium? You can get a potassium supplement, but it's going to be maxed out at 900 milligrams per serving. And so I've never supplemented with potassium. I get that from avocados, right? So avocados are super important for that. There's only the 3 biggest sources of potassium in your diet are 2 are carb based. One is coconut water, and the other one is bananas. And both of and a banana is going to have 25 grams of carbs in it. So you can't do that if you're going to do a ketogenic diet. But so I highly recommend eating, avocados in the beginning. And even in the beginning part of this, maybe up to 2, getting into ketosis, 2 avocados a day to make sure you're getting enough potassium into your system because you're going to be dehydrated. Let's talk about net hydration for a second. This is really important, super important. And this is, you can download the app called Drink Water, and it's what I use. And I put in my age and my weight, and it gives me the net amount of water I need to take in a day. And it subtracts out from the gross, basically, like if I have alcohol or caffeine or any of those type of things. So just use that app so you can get the right amount of water in and use electrolytes and basically from your food as best possible. Salt, I would look into just as a real salt, and I'm not using that as a pun intended, but nothing that's been highly processed. if you get hungry or you can put a little bit under your tongue, and your body's really looking for electrolytes and looking for water and doing that, especially if you're fasting long term. Um, and then magnesium. I use the Calm magnesium, or you can also buy. Redmond has another product called Relight, RE-LYTE, that has potassium and magnesium in it on top of their salt, and that is a great way to get your electrolytes in. And there's no sugar added to that. And so I use that or the Calm there. But when I wrote this, I was using Calm, but just recently I haven't been using that. I've been using the Relight. All right. Here's another thing about the ketogenic diet. There's no cheat days. It's not a 6-day challenge. It's not even a 28-day challenge. I mean, yes, you can lose some water weight and you can do that in a short run in a week or something like that. But that's not low carb living. That's not ketogenic lifestyle. That's just a biohack that you're doing, and you're going back to the way you were, right? And that's fine if that's the way you want to do it. That's up to you. I'm not telling you how to do it, how not to do it. All I'm saying is that that's just not a ketogenic lifestyle. A ketogenic lifestyle is where you don't have cheat days. And I'm very binary. I'm very like, this is the way I'm doing it and not. And I did try 18 months into this, Tim Ferriss's slow carb diet, where it had a cheat day where you could have pasta and bread and all the things that are on the don't eat list. And I did it. And it wrecked me. I did it 3 Sundays in a row trying this. And only when it didn't wreck me is when I had rice, when I had sushi on the 3rd Sunday. And so if I do decide to come like completely out of ketosis, which I have multiple times during this 5-year period because I cycle in and out, I'll have rice with the family or rice with, sushi or a rice bowl or things like that. But most of the time I'm easing out of it, and I'm having some carbohydrates through a sweet potato on a Sunday and cycling out and then getting back in on Monday. So cycling is super important. So if you want to learn more about cycling, research that with that. So it's not a cheat day, right? Now, here's the thing. You may have a sweet tooth. Now, how are you going to get past that? What I did is Dr. Dean Estigo has this mousse or ice cream where you take sour cream and coconut oil. You put some chocolate cocoa powder in there, non-sweetened cocoa powder, some stevia, and you mix that up. And it makes like this coconut chocolate mousse. It's going to have a lot of calories in it, going to have a lot of fat in it. And so depending on what your goals are, and if you have a sweet tooth, that's where you can start. Also, like now there's Lily's, chocolate bars that are super cool, and you can get, or maybe even a protein bar or something like that may be able to fit into that. And so I had to do that, to be honest with you. I had a sweet tooth in the beginning and really helped me get over the hump. Let me warn you, you are going to have sugar cravings for 21 days. Or any cravings for, white bread or pasta, pizza, whatever you normally do. And you maybe even have a mental cravings for things as you further go down. And that's why these things like fathead dough for pizza or breads and bagels and those type of things have come along, is because people still want to eat the same way, but lower their carbohydrates, which I love, right? 5 years ago, you didn't have that. So I just eliminated that stuff from my diet. And occasionally just on Sunday before I started this phase of keto where I was like on a weight loss phase. And I posted this in my story right now on Facebook. I made a cheese quesadilla. So it basically had 5 ingredients, right? So I had almond flour, mozzarella, made the tortilla shell, and I didn't even measure it out. I just like mixed it in the pan and went for it. I put some pepper jack cheese in the middle. I drizzled it. We didn't even have any sour cream. I drizzled it with this really cool, like it was almost like creme fraiche, but it was a yogurt, a European style thin yogurt, 0 sugar in it. And then I put some organic mild salsa on the side, and I was dipping it in that. And so, yes, I get that. I love the fact that we've got these quick, fathead doughs and things like that. But if you're, adverse to dairy or can't eat, lactose intolerant or any of those type of things, that doesn't work for you, right? But in the beginning, if it helps you bridge the gap to get you over to where you're living a low carb lifestyle and you're living a lot healthier, and you've done get all the benefits of this, of in elevated mood, weight loss, you're curing your metabolic flexibility, or diseases that you may have like type 2 diabetes, then if that gets you over the hump, that gets you over the hump. And I get it. I totally get it. And I'm with you. Now, how do you test? The best way to test in the beginning is to get some keto strips. You can get that at any pharmacy. You can order it off Amazon, right? And basically, you go tinkle on these strips, and they will it tells you how many ketones are spilling over into your bloodstream. Now, after about 30 days, this doesn't work and you need to go to a different style testing. You can either get a breath test, or you can, because it test the amount of ketones that are being exhaled through your breath, or you can test your blood. And here's another thing is, like, when you're getting into ketosis, your breath will take the paint off a 1967 Buick. I'm telling you, it basically, the ketones coming out it's just what it is. So be careful. Keep some non-sugar based gum or mint or something around if you're at work around people. Your mask may cover it up now because we're in COVID and all those things. And so I'm just telling you, just be wary of that as well. And also, another thing to be conscious of is that if you're burning your fat stores that have been on your body for a long time, that's where toxins are stored. You may get things like headaches, or and what I do, headaches, or smell different, or your tongue may turn white, or that type of stuff. So do this, right? I keep, if I get a headache, this is my bulletproof coconut charcoal, which is activated charcoal. It'll help take away headaches if you're fasting or detoxing. And this is what it does for me. I'm not telling you to take it by any means, but activated charcoal has been around for years. Says gas relief, and it can help with that if something that was in your food that is giving you gas. Also, the military uses it. If somebody has stomach flu out in the field, they'll build a fire to get charcoal. They'll mix it with water, make them drink it. So charcoal absorbs toxins and things like that. But with that, and then also I have this little miniature real salt from my friends at Redmond, and I'll put my affiliate link into the show notes where you can go buy anything from Redmond that you want. And and then so what happens is that you can, as your body changes and things are happening and your body's detoxing, you may get headaches along the way there. So let's see here. Let's see what to expect when you switch from carb burner fat. In the process, you'll feel dehydrated, possibly lethargic, especially in the beginning if you are not hydrating properly and taking the steps to avoid the keto flu. You can and will have sugar cravings for up to 21 days, so stand guard. Your physical performance will decline while adapting, but you will come back and then be better than before keto, especially if you have any type of endurance workouts or sport. When you come out of the other side and arrive in ketosis, the results are nothing short of amazing. You will look at a Krispy Kreme hot now sign and say, "Come at me, bro," right? Because carbs have no effect on you any longer. You become immune to the kryptonite known as carbohydrates and sugar. You will no longer become hangry. You will have boundless energy, and your physical performance will be better than when you were a carb burner. Another added benefit is a brain boost or a cognitive enhancement for the brain now running off ketones or small amount of glucose that your liver makes from protein. Oh, and once keto is in your breath, you may be able to take the pain off an old Buick. Yeah. So anyway, that's what that says. All right. Let's see here. That's pretty much it on how to get into ketosis, right? Is you need to understand where you're starting from, where your starting point is, and then take the step forward in lowering your carbohydrates. Now, I will say here, I want to say thank you to Debbie G and everybody over the Spirituality Gone Wild Network, which is growing. We got some new co-creators coming on board. And so if you're joining us from Spirituality Gone Wild Facebook group or pages, I say thank you very much. And also thank you to the people watching on LinkedIn. I know that ketogenic diet's trending, and I was a very early adopter to where we are now. And this was a short-term experiment that ended up being something long-term for me. Now, you may find different reasons that you want to be in ketosis, right? Well, I had, at the time, had been intermittent fasting for 4 years and lost 40 pounds with intermittent fasting. And I still, and I think the keto is a great tool to match up and pair with intermittent fasting. Now, what happened is that I had started doing the Wim Hof method 5 years ago in January, and I started craving fat. And I was eating, foods with sugar in them because I wasn't keto. And I knew that if I started eating the fat that I was craving because I was cold, doing this cold exposure, shoveling the driveway and taking cold showers like I did this morning and all those things, that I was going to gain weight again because I just understood how macros worked. And in November this month, 5 years ago, I'd listened to the Tim Ferriss podcast where he interviewed Dr. D. Anastigo. And so I then combined the two together and said, well, if I'm going to, I love the way that I'm feeling from the cold. I love setting this example for my family and my kids that they can build their immune system. Things are possible for them to do. They can go out in the cold. Their bodies are designed to handle this. Now my diet needs to match this so it helps enhance it. And so that's really where I started from and with the ketogenic diet. Like I said, I did do the Atkins diet back in my 20s when I was weightlifting and doing those things. And I got down to really thin again. And so it does work. It really does work. And for some people it doesn't work for, but I would say that you're probably not doing this and understanding that your protein needs to be the same no matter what phase you're in. Your carbohydrates are relatively the same, and you can add more in as you get deeper into ketosis. But then in the beginning, that you shouldn't eat too much fat because you want your body to actually burn the fat that's on your frame. So no questions came in. I must have covered everything. So I just want to say thanks for watching the show. Thanks to Spirituality Gone Wild, my friend Steve Weber for getting me into doing lives, and tune in for tomorrow's show, which is Carrie Luxem. She's with the HR Restaurant Group, and she's written this book that I'm going to give away tomorrow. And also, Friday's show is Phil Newman. He's from England, and he's the founder of First Longevity. They have the what is this? The Neurotech 2020 conference that I'm going to be speaking at on December 9th. On a Wednesday. So there won't be a show that day, but I'm interviewing him on Friday, and I'm looking forward to that. So again, my name is Scott Stanfield. If it's your Friday, I hope you have a great weekend. I am, I am a modern longevitarian. Check out my website, sleep.strongforlonger.com, and download the book. Cheers.